Welcome to another exciting show with me, Carmel Fisher. If you remember, just a few weeks back, we sat down with Dr. Maria Maccecchini, the CEO of Innovus Bio, and we were looking forward to uncovering some latest FDA clearances that were very pertinent to the work they are doing. So today is that day when we bring you the latest updates and developments on Innovus Bio with the ticker ANVS. With me, Dr. Maria Maccecchini. As I mentioned, welcome.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and thanks for being interested in what the FDA said.
You know, it's a very pivotal milestone. We see that's been uncovered here. So congratulations, firstly, on the latest FDA clearance for your pivotal. It's the phase 3, I believe, phase 3 Alzheimer's studies, correct? So tell us more about this and how the buntanetap's unique mechanism of action could potentially revolutionize Alzheimer's treatments.
Well, yes. So the reason we're so happy is, we do studies, and I think to date we have done 4 studies, small studies in Alzheimer's, and now the FDA gave us clearance to do the very last study, which is really a confirmation of the study we just finished. And once we have that confirmation, we can actually then go and ask to be on the market. So why we are so excited about this data is that buntanetap is good in Alzheimer's and in Parkinson's. And the reason it works, at least we believe it works in a number of neurodegenerative diseases, is that it attacks more than one neurotoxic protein. So what pharma has done, they have attacked mostly A-beta. And if you attack plaques, A-beta makes plaques, you get a small response. If you however, attack more than one toxic protein. And in the brain of an Alzheimer patient, there are at least 4 toxic proteins, not just A-beta, but A-beta, tau, alpha-synuclein, TDP-43. If you attack them all, you have a better outcome. And in fact, our limited data in the 3-month study we just did shows that our drug works a lot better than the existing drugs on the market. I have to say it's limited. The FDA wants us to repeat it. And it's a short study, and we want to repeat it in a longer study.
Awesome. And perhaps you've touched on this, but how does this new development help you to differentiate from previous approaches to what you've been doing?
Well, we have differentiated ourselves with our mechanism of action now for over 10 years from other approaches. So the question is not, is it different or not? The question is, does it work while being different? And the exciting thing is that the FDA at least believes it's worth reproducing the data we have to prove that it works. Now, the FDA always wants you to have 2 studies. So this is a confirmation of the previous study.
Wonderful. Now, the FDA's alignment on this developmental path, including both short-term and long-term efficacy studies, does seem to offer multiple routes to success. Is this flexibility in your approach going to enhance Innovus Bio's chances of bringing buntanetap to market efficiently?
Yes and no, okay? We are pretty sure that it works short-term. That's what we showed in our phase 2/3 study. That's what we really showed and what we showed the FDA. It works short term. So we just, in quotes, we just have to show and prove that it is reproducible and it works short term. I'm pretty sure that is correct. I mean, all our data has pointed to it working short term. The long study, we really don't have any data for, other than animals. In animals, it works long term, but these are mice and we are humans. So we have to do an 18-month study in humans to also show that it works long term.
Wonderful. And this is what we're moving towards from this point.
Yes.
So
yes.
Wonderful. So you've also mentioned the possibility of an NDA filing within 1 year of initiating the 6-month study. That seems like an impressively rapid timeline. What key factors have enabled Innovus to potentially accelerate the traditional drug development process in this way?
We have had very fast enrollment in our previous study. And the reason is that our competition has drugs that have to be infused. People have to go in every 2 weeks. They have to take brain imaging, whether that is an MRI or a PET scan. They have to jump through a lot of hoops. and they have side effects. Our drug is a pill a day, and as far as we know, we haven't seen side effects. So people like to take a pill a day with no side effects. So our previous two studies, the Alzheimer's and the Parkinson's, they have recruited in record time. So we expect this study also to recruit in record time. And that's why we believe that the 6-month study we can finish in a year, and that then we have to look at the data.
Excellent. And obviously, it just shows with that big response rate, the absolute need for something like this, right? Yes. People wouldn't be flocking to be part of the study if they weren't desperate for a solution.
Yeah, I think that's true. The fact that we have good data in our previous studies helps. But we were surprised how fast we recruited in the last two studies because the previous data was very, very thin. Now, in the meantime, our previous data is quite strong. So we expect people to really flock.
Wonderful. Now, the FDA also raised no concerns about buntanetap's safety profile, which obviously is incredible. It's crucial for any potential Alzheimer's treatment. How does this clean safety record position buntanetap competitively in the landscape of emerging Alzheimer's therapies?
I think it puts us in a very, very good place because every single existing drug on the market for Alzheimer's disease has serious side effects. Now, you can say if there is nothing else out there, we take the side effects because if it improves cognition, well, the side effects may be worth it. But the fact that our drug has no side effects is definitely going to position us very, very well. And it's not just that we don't have side effects. We also have not seen any problems with liver enzymes, with kidney, with spleen. We have not seen any issues with different sex, that, it may work better in one population than the other. We haven't seen that.
Off to a great start. The company's stock, on the other hand, saw a significant one-day increase, specifically after the FDA announcement, yet it's still down over 50% year to date. How do you interpret this market response? And obviously, what do you think investors are missing about Annovis Bio's long-term potential?
Yeah, that is one of the sad parts of our company. We are in the perfect spot for being shorted. See, by the time a company has been shorted down to 30 cents, nobody wants to short it any further. There's nowhere to go. By the time a company has 300 million in the bank and is worth a billion, you need a lot of money to short it. Whereas we're only worth 100 million. We don't have that many shares, and we are in the $7, $8, $9 range. We are perfect for shorting. And I think it's very, very sad that people do that. I know they make money. They even brag on StockWits that they make money on shorting us. But if you really think about the fact that we do need raised money, we need money to do the studies we want to do. And this drug could help their grandmothers. It could help their grandfathers. And they're shorting it because they don't understand how important it is to develop novel drugs for a disease for which there is nothing. So one of these days we'll break out of the shorting club, but right now that's where we are.
Understood. And hopefully more education is pushed out to help them understand the importance of this. But I understand
they make money.
And that's the bottom line for them, right?
Yes,
Hint, hint, bottom line. I get it. Nonetheless, you guys are doing fantastic work. Now, buntanetap is reported to target multiple neurodegenerative diseases, including Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. We've mentioned this before. How does this multi-target approach reflect your vision for the future of treating complex neurological disorders?
Well, one of the nice things that has happened in the area of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease is that the world is coming to our view of the brain. Now, we have had this view for over 10 years, but nobody believed it. Well, that's not true. The big KOLs, the big companies didn't believe it because they were targeting one specific protein. But if you go now to a scientific meeting, more and more people are starting to talk about the fact that there are mixed pathologies. mixed pathologies used to be thought as a sideline. You have Alzheimer's, you have Parkinson's, you've got this small group in here that's a mixed pathology. It's not true. Now the world is coming to realize that you have Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and they overlap. So neurodegeneration is not a disease or a second disease or a third disease. It's a big aggregation of all these overlapping diseases, including ALS, including Lewy body dementia, including frontotemporal dementia, including Huntington's. They're not the same, but they all overlap. And which means that if you look at the brain of a whole, you have to influence the brain and not one single protein. And that is really in our advantage. The drug we have does it anyway, but the fact that the world is slowly recognizing that there is no such thing as clean Alzheimer's and clean Parkinson's, it's all mixed pathology. Every single neurodegenerative disease has some kind of mixed pathology. And that, I think, was going to make it much, much easier for us to be recognized.
For sure. And I mean, the use of nanotechnology, in this buntanetap's development, it is intriguing. Maybe you've touched on this, but elaborate a little closer for us and the viewers on the technology and how this allows you to target multiple toxic proteins at the same time, as you mentioned, and what are the implications this might have for future drug development?
Well, we were lucky. I mean, our drug does it. I didn't really do much. It only took me 8 years to figure out how it does it. But because
only 8 years.
no drug does that, right, as far as we know, okay? Because people weren't looking at it. People were looking at one drug doing one very specific thing. And here we have a drug that attacks tau, that attacks alpha-synuclein, attacks A-beta, it attacks Huntington's. And you go, how does it do that? But it turns out that there is a common mechanism among all these proteins. And the common mechanism is their translation. That is how they are made. And right, what our drug does, it affects the switch of on-off for them to be made. So if I turn off one, it turns them all off. If I turn on one, it turns them all on. And that is really the beauty of this drug, that somehow nature made by itself, because it does inhibit all neurotoxic aggregating proteins, every single one of them. All the ones I told you are in these mixed pathologies. And by doing so, it actually reestablishes the health and the homeostasis of the brain. And that's what's so important.
Very, very intriguing and exciting at the same time. Add to that is us looking ahead to the trial initiation early next year. What are you most excited about in terms of buntanetap's potential impact on patients' lives? And how do you envision the future of Alzheimer's treatment if these phase 3 trials are successful?
As far as we know, in the small study we have right, the absolute best data of any drug. But it's a small study, okay? We have to repeat right, in the bigger study. What it does, it improves cognition 3 times more than Aricept, which is the standard of care.
Right.
Now, improving cognition by 6 points is actually a remarkable improvement. People think that 2 points, you notice. 6 points is a real improvement. If we can reproduce that data, that we can increase cognition by 6 points in the population we are treating, that's an enormous improvement.
Wow.
And on top of that, the long-term effect, which we don't know, we would then also see if it still does that at 18 months.
Incredible. Any closing remarks before we close this off? I think we've gotten all the latest, most important developments to this point.
Well, I'm really looking forward to starting the second study and confirm the data, because as you noticed, I keep hedging in our study. The FDA, the reason the FDA wants 2 studies is that in our study, very often is not enough. You try to reproduce it and it's not. Now, I'm 100% sure it will be reproducible, but you have to deal with the fact that some studies are not. So if we can reproduce it and have an NDA and get it on the market, I really think it's going to help patients. In the meantime, then we can actually look if it works long term, and then it would help patients even more. And then I'm really looking forward to doing the same for Parkinson's.
Wonderful. Really exciting. This was Dr. Maria Maccecchini with me, Carmel Fisher. Stay tuned for more.
Brought to you, as always, by the Harvest Podcast, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.